be on the Zoom. I think we might be live. Let me just double check we have everything set.
Hello, I'm
Testing, sound, testing. Sound sounds good. Okay, I think we're live and we're all set. All right. This is going to be the second live stream that we're doing. I looked at the footage from the last time's live stream. It looks like my audio got out of sync, so I'm trying something a little differently. I am going to be projecting off of Zoom. So this screen is going to be Zoom, and I'll bring over questions from the other screen. I'm not exactly sure how I'll do that, but we'll play it by ear. All right. So hopefully some of you guys enjoyed that video that I put out earlier this morning. It's very different, obviously. It's not anything related to pharmacy. But if you liked it, definitely let me know. Seems like it's getting quite a bit of traction out there. But anyways, I think I'm gonna make these a lot shorter than usual. I'm gonna do maybe 30 minutes just to make sure I'm efficient with my time and I don't go crazy over this because it's kind of fun. So we're just gonna jump right into questions and let me see. I don't remember where I left off last time, but I'm gonna drag this over here and we'll just start going down to questions. Okay, I'm gonna do this. And maybe what I'll do is I'll add my face on this side, so a smaller face. Okay, hopefully it's fun. Oh, we got a comment on the new video. So let us go through questions. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So very first question. Oh, it's not a question. I think there's a comment. From Jasmine Ahmed. She says that she loves this. I've had the same thinking since entering my late 20s. And that's my Ate Katie. I don't know what Ate means. I think that's big, maybe. This is great. Thank you for filming this. So Jasmine liked it. Glad to see the likes coming in. The video actually, let me show you guys real quick, is actually trending pretty well. Where can I go and look at this? So if we go to my channel, we go at videos. I actually don't remember how to get to it. Okay, let's just ignore that. Let's just go back to the questions. Okay, so next question is okay, we got one on one of my older videos about not matching. So this one's from Austin. He says, "Hello, thank you for sharing your story. I was completely devastated last year. Not matching is a very difficult time. So definitely relate. When results came out, I too am scared of facing rejection once again. Oh, it looks like you're applying again. Good luck on the match this time. However, my mentors really encouraged me to give this process one more shot and to be more humble throughout the entire process. Very good advice. I'm anticipating on being asked, why do you think you didn't match last year? Have you been ever asked this at your follow-up interviews? Do you have any advice on how to answer this question or what the programs are truly looking for? This is a really good question. Let's start with this one. All right, so let's see. I think I already mentioned it, but good luck on applying a second time. I think just applying a second time into that whole process is speaks volumes about yourself because it is very stressful to go through. So truly good luck on that process. I think going through the second time will certainly make you a stronger candidate than before. Despite what the statistics tell you, there's a lot you gain just from learning and going through that process. So the question, why do you think you didn't match last year? I've never been asked that question. I actually thought about talking about it because there are many reasons why I think I didn't match. I think everyone has their own story as to why that might be. So I'll give you my reasons why I think I didn't match. So the first thing I would say is that I was extremely, extremely um, conceited. I had an insane ego. I thought I could get any residency out there, and the 7 programs that I ultimately applied to reflected that. I only applied to really, really top programs. And because of that, I think that my opportunities for matching was drastically diminished. You look at some of the statistics for those programs, and I think I may have talked about it in that video where a top program might have 4 spots. And, 4 spots is not a lot, but then you look at the number of applicants to those top programs, and I recall some of them having anywhere between 2 to 300, and this is back in 2013. It just constantly grows, so it's likely larger than that now. So let's just say 300. 300 people apply to those 4 spots at this top program. Those 300 people are not just any individual. Those are people who probably did very well in pharmacy school, has some really good credentials. And to give you a more concrete example of my experience at that time, I was curious as to who those candidates were. So I did talk to one of the candidates that ended up um, matching to the programs, and his credentials and mine were very similar, but he also had a PhD. I'm not saying that a PhD is better than me, but I'm just giving you an idea that some of these candidates have a lot of different things. They are usually leaders in the national space. They have insane credentials all over the place on the resume and CV. So they're really, really good candidates, and there are so many of them. So, long-winded way of saying one of the reasons why I don't think I matched my very first year was because I was very short-sighted in applying to certain programs. I think it's more realistic to apply, and this is probably very common advice, apply to a couple of top name programs, your reach programs, because that's where you want to be. But you should also consider applying to some other types of programs that maybe doesn't have the same quote unquote prestige or reputation that you might have. And that doesn't mean they're a bad program at all. I strongly believe that your residency experience is dictated by you. It doesn't really matter what program you go to. You can make any program a good program. So apply to other programs that are quote unquote not as prestigious. So that's one reason why I don't think I matched. Another reason, so going beyond the application process, is the interview. Once you get accepted to a residency on-site interview, all bets are off after that. It's everyone on equal footing. It didn't matter if you had a 4.0 or a 2.5. At that point, everything becomes about your fit, and it becomes about how well you interview, and basically the interview. Let's keep it at that. So let's say 2 to 300 applicants at first for these 4 spots. About 20 to 25% of those individuals get invited for interviews. So anywhere between 16 to 25, just on average. They come in, they interview, and I recall doing pretty poorly on my interviews. So out of the 7 programs I applied to, I had 3 interviews, 3 on-site interviews. One of them I felt pretty good about originally getting the invite because I was in that first batch. If you look at you hear people talk about getting the residency invites. Many times, the people who get the very first invites are the strongest in that group because they're the first choices from the programs. They want to interview them, and if they accept, then you can kind of end it at that. And that's why some people, it takes longer for them to get the residency invite because you want to interview the really good candidates first to see if you can get them in. If they commit, then that's good. Yeah, I think that's kind of thinking. But obviously differs by every institution. So I felt really good because I was the very first batch in one of the sites. Now, when I got to these interviews, every one of them, I had an experience where I very vividly recall doing very poorly at one point of the interview or multiple points in the interview. So this is this is a pretty embarrassing one. But one interview, I remember sitting down and there was about 5 people in the room. It was the very beginning. It was introductions, and I was excited. Everyone was excited, and within probably the very first 5 minutes, my phone went off. Someone was calling me to wish me well in the interview, and I was very embarrassed. Everyone else just kind of looked at me, and it's like, kind of unspoken rule. You probably should not have your phone on or try to remember that. And that's probably a good tip to share. Just turn your phone off or keep it on silent. I try to play it off by saying I monitor all my events on my phone. I live by my phone to keep me on track. Not a great excuse. I think that was a very poor impression. Not a deal breaker by any means. It was just not a good first impression. That's one. On that same interview, I also recall a question that came up about a situational question, not yeah, it's somewhat of a situational question, and about conflict resolution. And I believe the question was about if I've ever had a conflict in the past and how I went about resolving it. I can't remember how I answered it per se, but it was a very poor example. I wasn't prepared for the question, and I was just trying to think of things on the spot. And I recall that that interview question being so bad that I attribute not getting matched to that site because of that one question alone. So I think that it's very important, and this is kind of obvious to say, is to prepare for some of these questions. But I'll contrast that with my other interview, where it was a lot later, and so I had more time to prepare. But that very first batch, I would attribute why I didn't match to those two things. The next one I went to, I don't remember if it was the second or third one. I think it might have been the second one. That one I did prepare for. I came up with all the different situational questions I had, and I was like, okay, I got this. I have a story for every single one of them. And I recall even a basic introduction. You get into an interview room, you might have like three, four, five interviews with different groups of people. You have your clinical managers, your directors, your operations people, maybe a specialty group of people, the current residents. And so you're constantly in different rooms with people and interviewing. And in one of those cases, I recall, um, well, they usually start off with, hey, tell me about yourself, right? Something very simple and easy for anyone to answer. And I remember having pretty much written out all my responses to all the interview questions. And the moment I started reciting a very basic introduction about myself, hi, I'm Brian, I went to this school, I'm looking for this, blah, 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 it came out so rehearsed that I felt uncomfortable. Um, that that wasn't good because pretty much a lot of that interview and the rest of the interviews at that site came out like that. It was very rehearsed, and I'll never do that to myself again. So it's like two different sides. On one side, I was not very prepared. The other side, I don't want to say over prepared, but I was way too scripted. And so I would say, try to find a happy medium, outline some of the points, think about some stories that you can help you match, or think about some stories that would fit those types of questions, and go from there. Don't try to memorize things, it'll come natural. Maybe I'll just keep it at that because I've been spending way too long on this question. Have you ever been asked this? So the question on that is no. Do you have any advice for how to answer this question or what the programs are truly looking for? Um, so maybe very brief on that. So that I kind of provided some tips on how I would approach it if I were to go back to that situation again. I think programs are looking for people who are authentic. In either case, one, I was unprepared, or poor example, and then the other one, I was way too scripted. So I think being way too scripted is not authentic. necessarily. It doesn't come off as genuine. A lot of the times when you're on an on-site interview, they're really looking for people who fit with the program and who you're gonna spend the next year with. So you want to find someone that truly fits with them, and you don't want someone to come across as fake or anything. You want someone to show the true personality and someone that you would actually want to work with for the next year. So I think that's how I would approach it. And best of luck. Let me know where you end up. I will give you a heart and a thumbs up to wish you best of luck. All right, next question on the certifications video. Mario says, "Dude, you talk too much. Get to the point." That is very true. I will make note of that. Give you a heart and a thumbs up. I try my best to maybe outline or think about some major points, but sometimes I do ramble on a little bit. So thanks for that critique. Oh man, this is a long one. On the last live stream. Okay, I'll try to get to this one. Let me grab another sip of coffee first. Let's see. This is from our Huck. And it reads, "Thank you so much for your videos and thorough analysis. I'm just wondering if you can comment on pure international students who's hoping to go for higher studies in the US, whose background is B Pharm or M Pharm in pharmacy from India, 4 to 5 years of experience, both in adjunct teaching and public health settings as a project director. Skills on genetics, pharmacology, math, may need some polishing. Out of university for a long time, hates chemistry, labs, and weak in physics. Interested in people-oriented job settings, hoping to get in or both MPH, MHA, MBA, MS, and genetic counseling. That's a lot of degrees. Um, I'm assuming you're trying to choose between them. Social pharmacy, outcomes administration, somewhat interested in health informatics as well. Which master's level degree I mentioned is a better combo with the previous degrees in terms of job opportunity after graduation, work stay, visa, and salary, information on degrees that are less costly and funding is also greatly appreciated. This is a very tough question for me to answer, and I may not be very well suited to answer this. Let me just first say I mentioned this on the last video, and you may have already seen this, but I'll mention it again. I don't have experience with international students. I just know that it's very different from each organization. So I always recommend reaching out to that institution that you're interested in to get more advice. The other person I always think about when it comes to international students is Rosu. She has a YouTube channel. She has a couple videos on it. Definitely recommend reaching out to her to get some of her perspectives. She has a better idea on how to approach that. In terms of what degree to pair with that background, it's very hard to say. So I'm a firm believer that you always want to base what your decisions on what you want to accomplish in the future, not so much what you want to choose now to, yeah, just not what you want to choose now without knowing the end in sight. I didn't get a strong sense of what you're trying to accomplish in the future to make a good recommendation for what you should do in the middle part, especially in light of the international student. So I probably don't have the best advice to give here. But I can tell you the lowest cost funding is probably MPH. MPH degrees are usually a lot cheaper than the other ones, probably because this is probably coming out of not great research or anything, but I because the ROI is usually not as high for MPH programs. K Dean says hello. Hello, K Dean. How are you doing? If you have questions, definitely leave it in the chat box below. But hope all is well on this Saturday afternoon. Okay, next one. Give you a like and a thumbs up. Hopefully that was helpful. I can't comment as much on international students. All right, next one is I enjoyed your video. Yes, I will be your YouTube friend. Next one. Okay, I think I answered all of these. I gave a lot of thumbs up. Similar. This must be spam comments. We will keep moving on. Let's see. What are some other questions do we have here? Oh, I think this is the one I skipped last time because it was so long. Hey, look, another comment on here. Comment is from Lido Smiley Girl. Hi Brian, hope this is not too awk. but I'm friends with Jan and Gloria. Oh, cool. Very cool. I was surprised that they know you when I've been watching you to help with my farm journey. Oh, very cool. Yeah, Jan and Gloria is super awesome. Well, I'm sure, of course, you know. Yeah, they I actually just got to meet them for the first time during the surprise engagement for my sister, I think about almost 2 years ago now. Yeah, they're an awesome bunch and small world. I mean, everyone it's always a small world, so that's fantastic. Let me know where you are in your pharmacy journey. Be interested to know if you're a student. I'm assuming you're a student, resident, or current practicing pharmacist. And if you have any questions, definitely leave it in the comments below too. Let's see here. We might have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. This is from M. Samadi. Thank you for the video, Brian. Very helpful. I'm on a pharmacy informatics APPE. Hey, very cool. I actually have not seen too many of those. And frankly, the department is extremely busy with integrating Epic into a hospital outpatient pharmacy and a new independent hospital to a point where I feel like I'm not learning much, even though there's so much to learn. So I'm sorry to hear that. That probably isn't uncommon either. It gets very busy with Epic build, and maybe this is the Epic implementation here, it sounds like. And it can be very difficult to spend time with the students. What are some major controversial, simply important topics in pharmacy informatics that are hot now? I can tell you the hottest topic right now, which is a huge buzzword, is artificial intelligence. That is one of the main things that all of us in pharmacy informatics talk about. But artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks, I'm just going on a huge buzzword hype right now. Um, so the second question is this could be related to CDS and spark pumps alert fatigue. CDS is really big. The big topic in CDS is artificial intelligence because it's figuring out how we can identify. Hmm. I feel like I'm going above here. I shouldn't be talking so much on the details. Artificial intelligence is a big topic in the CDS community. Um, it can probably apply to artificial intelligence can apply to many aspects of pharmacy informatics, including CDS, smart pumps, especially alert fatigue. A lot of people talk about using artificial intelligence to improve alert fatigue because you're using an insane amount of data to figure out how you should fire or when you should not fire alerts. But read up on it. Artificial intelligence. Oh, you know what? Let me share that here. A good read for you since you're talking about good hot topics. ASHB just released a summary on artificial intelligence. I don't remember if I shared this last time. But definitely do read it. It came out maybe like 2 months ago or so. I would recommend anyone in pharmacy should read it, but just Google it. It is ASHP Artificial Intelligence. Kind of talks about where we're headed, what they're thinking, and things like that, and recommendations. So definitely check that out. I would highly encourage you to read that on there. So more comments. So it's a small world. I told Gloria that when I saw your engagement video. I actually graduated this. Oh, congratulations! That's awesome. But I'm struggling with NAPLEX and MPJE. By the way, this is probably public. This has never been publicly said, but I failed the MPJE in 2 different states. It's not an easy exam, so I relate. It is not very easy. Failed the NAPLEX. NAPLEX got changed as well. It's a lot harder. Yeah, it's to be honest, it's not uncommon to fail the MPJE. Every state's different, and it is not an easy exam. I wish you luck as you try to do it. It's hard to say too. Or maybe I don't want to give you advice if you don't you don't want advice. But let's keep reading. Now I'm going back to Naplex. Do you have any recommendations for how I should approach it? Last time I read the RX prep book, took notes in the old test bank. Hmm. That is what I did as well. I would be curious to know how long you actually took in reviewing the Naplex. So, despite us both doing the same things, because that's what I did as well, I would want to know how much time you're spending per day and for how long you took in reviewing that book, because maybe we just need to expand the amount of time that you're using to study for that exam. It's a lot of content, and I should probably ask around too. There's a very big difference between the NAPLEX that I took and then the NAPLEX that came out the year after. They completely changed the exam quite a bit. Um, I don't remember if they show you review questions either, but math is like a part that you cannot skip. So make sure your math definitely is really, really top notch. But yeah, let me know how much time you're spending on it. And I will also check with some of my friends who took the most recent Naplex on some of their recommendations because it's changed quite a bit. So my recommendations may not be as on alignment with how people are taking the Naplex nowadays. Nancy Williams says, "What is the best way to get into pharmacy informatics? I'm a P1." Wow, you're way ahead of the game, and also have worked as a farm tech for many years. Well, they're interesting. Okay. Well, I'll make a couple comments. One comment is that you're super early, which is super awesome. The second comment is that you can get into pharmacy informatics as just a pharmacy technician. I know that wasn't your question, but I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of pharmacy technicians in pharmacy informatics. The third point I'll make here is that there are many different ways to pharmacy informatics. You ask me or any other pharmacy informatics or informatics pharmacist out there, and everyone will say something different. What I would say is to encourage you to do what you're doing right now and just ask others on what their ideas are. I haven't even provided an answer to what that is yet. Um, I would suggest always focusing on pharmacy first. You can't be in pharmacy informatics unless you understand the practice of pharmacy itself. Pharmacy informatics is a subspecialty of pharmacy. So the very first thing is I would try to say do projects that relate to pharmacy, maybe your pharmacy organizations. So APHA, um, ASHP, ACCP, things like that, and do projects with them. Help them do sign up sheets, help them build a website, help them use more of the technology in some of their programming and their tools. And the reason why I say that is because informatics is a very project driven specialty. Everything we do is about projects. We have a start, an end, monitoring phase, and things like that. But those skill sets can be built by doing things that is not even, quote unquote informatics. It's just by leading projects. So that's one of the very first things I would suggest, especially since they're so early on. I would try to encourage that. Other than that, Tony Dow has a great podcast. If you have not heard of it, he is probably the most. That's not it. Pharmacy ITME. Tony Dow has a podcast, Pharmacy ITME. Highly encourage you to read it. He probably has the most information out of anyone out there and the most diverse in terms of informatics pharmacists speaking about topics. So definitely check that out if you have not already. That's a very easy way in. Highly suggest that. Let's see. Next question. Typically, I study from 9 to 6 p.m. and try to cover 2 chapters and do an hour of calculation. I was surprised that the first exam didn't have that much. Hmm. Everyone said I had a lot of lab values and psych stuff. Yeah, that is strange. The last exam, when I took the NAPLEX, it was one of those exams where the questions change depending on how you answer them. And I don't know if it's the same now. I might have to do a little bit more digging into how the new Naplex worked out. But you know what? I just thought of two. There is someone that took the Naplex that was different than my version and made a video about it, which may be helpful. Um, this is called RX, NerdRX is one of my uh, friends and fraternity brothers' YouTube channel. There it is. Yeah. So he has a video about the new 2017 Naplex. Pretty thorough. I think he interviews one of my other colleagues, I believe. Yeah, Tang. Um, about his experience. I would highly recommend checking that out. They probably have better information than I do. Um, 9 to 6 p.m. is actually pretty substantial. So just to give you an idea of what I did, I studied for 3 months in total, and when I study, I think the time I spent was probably waking up early in the morning as well, probably around 9 a.m. But I probably studied till 11 p.m. Every single day until for 3 months. So I studied quite a bit of NAPLEX. So I got through the whole book, did the questions, took notes, um, and then there was, I don't know if this is as relevant, but there is a 150 question test test question, Netflix on student doctor. That that might be it. I don't remember if it's still out there. Yeah, this is it. This is probably it. This is like the gold mine back then. This is probably it. I don't know if it's still relevant. Yeah, basically the idea is there's a 120 questions on student doctor forums of all the different variations of math questions that could be asked. If you can pass that, you can pass the NAPLEX. That was the philosophy back then. You probably didn't even need to study a lot of the other stuff. If you knew this, you can pass the NAPLEX because those are key questions that would fail you if you couldn't get it right. Um, my exam probably didn't have a lot of ID, HIV, or ONC either. And so I'm actually surprised you had lab and psych too. You might have just been unlucky with that. When are you taking the NAPLEX again? Um, yeah, when are you taking the NAPLEX again? Hopefully you have some more time to prepare for that one. Let's see. I'm going to move on to another question. This one, I'm so sorry. These questions came so long ago. I just haven't had the time to go through them. This is from Linda. She says, "This was helpful, but I kept staring at the TV and wish it wasn't blank." That's a very interesting comment. The music and the content was very fitting. Oh, that's good. Perhaps something on the TV so the room doesn't seem blank. Okay, that's very fair. If you have comments about the backdrops, definitely let me know. I'm always trying to figure out ways to make it more interesting. Um, so thanks for the comment, Linda. I gave you a heart and a thumbs up. Started studying this week, March 11th. Oh, that's a pretty decent amount of time. 2 months. Let's see. Okay. Well, definitely check out the video that I have on here from Nerd RX. I mean, it's it has a lot of good views. Let me actually post this to make it a little easier here. Yeah, definitely give that a check out. And I know Tuan does a lot of other stuff on here that may be helpful as well. So definitely check out his channel. Um, I think you're I think you'll do fine on the next one. Let me know if there's other things. I can ask around to see if any of my friends have recommendations as well, and maybe I'll talk about that in the next live stream. Because I probably can't comment as much as to how the new exam is structured. Um, okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Hopefully that was helpful. Next question. All kinds of moods. I am not going to curse on the live stream. Um, appreciate this guy. Love the thumbnail. Love the thumbnail. I feel like I know that guy. The like a character from somewhere. This could be embarrassing because I probably should know who that is. Uh, love the video. Love the comment. Appreciate the support of the Pharmacist Academy. This is interesting. Let me reply back. You the real MVP, bro. You the real MVP. Okay, next one was the Pharmacist Academy. Love that tip about writing key facts and conversations on the back of business cards to help you remember in case you're writing a thank you letter. Yeah, that's a really good tip. I don't remember that video, but it's good to take notes about people as you meet them, because it's very hard to keep people straight and remember little tidbits about them. And when you reconnect with them in the future, people get really impressed when you remember those little things about them. And that makes a really good impression. And since we're on that topic, I would just say that whenever you're thinking about thank you letters, try to do them as soon as possible. I think as a student and a resident, I was always writing thank you letters all over the place. But having a lot of those notes that I took about them really helped. Let's see here. More questions. I was also wondering, do you think I should work a day in a week? I actually got laid off from Rite Aid. I'm sorry to hear that last December. And so I just focused on finishing APPs and exams, but now I feel discouraged. Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. That is, I feel like everyone's struggling with those kind of job issues right now. Um, hmm. That everyone is working, even though I know there's some of us that are still studying for our exams. I just don't want to lose studying hours for work. Be nice to take a break. That's a good question. So this might, let me just look it up actually. So I would say if this was the old NAPLEX exam, which in my opinion was very focused more on community practice, then working would be beneficial because it not only helps cement your didactic knowledge, but it helps it really like you're working in that space. So whether it's just learning basic things like brand generic, working always trumps didactic in my opinion. I just don't know if the exam is as focused like that anymore. But I'm curious if there's a quick Google search that can show if it's very similar. New oops, new NAPLEX exam. Free practice sample questions, test questions. Hmm. Let me get back to you because I'm very curious. I don't know if it's changed much. I would think that it hasn't. So I think this might be another. There might be other factors that might be important to think about. One factor would be if you have any financial concerns right now. If you let me backtrack completely. So the job market is tough, which I'm sure you're well aware of. I think if you have an opportunity for any job at all, I think it would be a very good idea to work some part time, potentially even giving you a leg up on transitioning into a full time position at that place. So I would say just on that fact alone that it might be a good idea to work. And if I go back to the idea that the old exam was very community focused, not that it was completely, but it was just, in my opinion, more focused on community, then it would cement the stuff you're learning didactically with actual work experience. So I would probably say it's a good idea, and maybe it's like a nice break because you can't just study like what I did. I actually think is not very productive to study, let's say 12, 16 hours a day. You need to change it up. So that might be a good idea to do. So I would probably say yes. I would definitely try doing that. More study hours doesn't necessarily equate to passing. I think a variety of approaches might be a good idea. Um, I'm just curious if you're still on the what state do you reside in? Trying to get an idea for the market of jobs in that area. Okay, these things are too fun. I enjoyed it. Let's see here. Another question is from Richie. Epic certifications. You have to be certified in Epic before you can become proficient in another module. Um, I don't think that's true. The reason why I don't think that's true is because I got my Willow proficiency as a resident and I was doing my BPA. or back then, was the clinical decision support proficiency, and I was not certified. So I don't think this statement is true. Um, I don't know why. Maybe there's a different context in which this is true. It's definitely true if you want to be a consultant. You can't have proficiency, you have to be certified. But yeah, I got my Willow proficiency first, and I was working on other proficiencies before I was ever certified. Um, but you get a thumbs up and a heart, anyways. Nicholas Bacon. That is a cool name. This sounds like a good question. Let's see here. Nicholas says, Brian, thank you for your great video. I appreciate the emphasis on what one can do to stand out from the crowd in an effort to get into a pharmacy informatics position. I'm on the verge of possibly being promoted, congrats, within my company from a clinical staff position to an informatics position. Oh, that is fantastic. That would be geared towards implementation of workflow improvements and EHR upgrades, more so than break fixes or maintenance. Sounds like a strategic position. What do you feel would be the best resource to develop a solid foundation in informatics? Huh. So I may have said this in other videos, but you are like the best candidate for people going into informatics. In the 2013 UHC, which is like the University Health Consortium conference, that's usually in partner with ASHP during December, the mid-year conference, which is now turned into Vizient. Many of the informatics pharmacists at that time felt as though the best candidate for people going to informatics is people who have worked in clinical positions for a few years and then transitioning, because you have the knowledge on pharmacy operations and pharmacy practice that is hard to get didactically. You need to actually be in that space and work there to get that knowledge. I mean, not necessarily, but that's the ideal, and that's what we were saying in UHC 2013. But now to build on that foundation, I didn't get if you were Epic. If it was Epic, Epic has a robust, if not the most robust. I'm being biased, so take that with what it is. Epic has a very good training program, so you just go onto the Epic user web and start browsing their training and look up the ones for pharmacy, which is called Willow, and just work through some of that to start developing a foundation on how to build. But in terms of building a foundation from nowhere, um, workflow improvements. If you're looking at workflow improvements, UI or user interface, user design, usability is very good place to start, because you need to make sure things not only work with your workflow, but you want to make it easy to use. If something is amazing, the best functionality in the world, but it's not easy to use, no one's going to use it. Especially because you work on workflow improvements, I would highly suggest looking at things at usability first. Think about those kind of things. There's a lot of talks about usability. It's very common in the software development space. So just look that up. You'll find a lot of information out there. That's one thing I'll say. The second thing is probably also check out Tony Dow's podcast. He has, I mentioned that first, a very well developed library of many different people on here, including himself, and talks about a lot of different things like core informatics competencies on there. That would probably be the second thing I would suggest looking into. And then solid foundation. So there are three, I think. If you want more of the didactic, traditional areas to look into, there's three organizations that has a lot of information about key foundational competencies to develop. One is AMIA, which is more bioinformatics. They have a lot of information. Definitely check that out. They're not geared toward pharmacy per se, but it's a lot of healthcare professionals. There's HIMSS. This is more on the technical side, I would say, but a lot of informatics, information technology focus, and of course ASHP, which has a lot of content as well, and they have one just for. They have a lot of resources for informatics, so I would look at those three things for organizations. So hopefully that was helpful. Hey, look, it's Tony. Let's see. So Lido says Washington. Um, Now I forgot my train of thought on Washington, but let's see. I think the way I was headed towards was because you're in Washington. I was wondering if there was any like cool other non-traditional pharmacy things to look into. Um, Amazon's out there, Microsoft's out there. Uh, I would also engage in conversations and just take a look at the market on what's out there beyond the traditional pharmacy space. But yeah, back to your question, I'm gonna ask around to see if other people have ideas on the new Naplex and for tips and strategies, because I don't want to lead you down the wrong path on that. So Tony's on here. Tony is a fantastic person, as I've been talking to about him. I think a good percentage of this live stream. Tony says I've spoken with him a few times. He has an amazing amount of process knowledge. I'm assuming Tony's talking about Nicholas. Cerner has a similar kind of thing too for foundation build called UCern. Oh, very cool. I did not know that. UCern. It's probably isn't much information on here. UCern Connect. Oh, so this is probably similar, I would imagine, to the Epic User Web. Oh, very cool. Okay. So some definitely things to talk about. Tony says he is talking about Nicholas. So Nicholas, you are very well vetted on this space. Okay, well, hopefully we hear more from Nicholas. Seems like you are going to be an awesome candidate, and we welcome you with open arms into informatics. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. If folks on the live stream have more questions, definitely leave it in the chat, I guess. Um, a Tong Redalus. I'm currently a BSN RN, strongly considering going to nursing informatics. I also have a bachelor's in computer science. Whoa, that's pretty awesome. Hopefully, I'm jealous, by the way. Hopefully, being to speak both languages, IT and healthcare will make my MSN experience a breeze, if there's such a thing. Thanks for this very informative video. I'm sure it will. Uh, I am trying to learn more computer science, like truly some of the fundamentals and technical aspects of it. It's definitely helpful. I will say that people in informatics usually differentiate between informatics and information technology. Um, but a lot of informatics draws on the science of computer science and other things. But that background would be hugely helpful in pursuing informatics. So good luck. Glad to have more people join the nursing or informatics space in general. And I've said in the past, nursing informatics is super awesome. I love working with nurses. So good on that. Me too, though I have information talent instead of CS. What year are you in your nursing program? So good luck to you guys. Hopefully we get to work together in the future in some capacity. Next question here is from Samim. How do we change language? I have no idea. This is a video on the smart pump tutorial that I did for the Bebron perfuser pumps a couple years ago. I don't remember. But I do remember that there was a very nice manual that was on there that you can probably find that. Let's see here. So this comment is from Lap, about desirable skills. He says, "Do not listen to Brian. He is an idiot and knows nothing about the profession." So Lap has his opinion here. There are things. I think that's a very good point in the sense that do know to folks who are listening that I am just one person. Do try to find out as much information as possible out there. There's a lot of people that have very differing perspectives than I do. So definitely seek out additional information, and perhaps that's a different way of conveying Lap's comment. But thanks for leaving a comment, Lap. I gave you a thumbs up and a heart. So next comment is from Rosu. She says, "Inspiring story and happy National IT Week." So let's give her a heart and a thumbs up. Thanks for dropping by. Let's see. Hey, it's Dalton. Oh, you know, By the way, for those who are watching, We should have Dalton on this live stream at some point. Dalton is one of the coolest guys I know because he is working in the buzzword space. He is working as a data scientist and he has a pharmacy degree. It is the coolest thing ever and something I wish I was doing. We should have more. We should have Dalton come on the live stream. If you guys want that to happen, definitely leave some comments, leave it in the chat. I'm on Zoom, so we can easily bring people on this live stream in the future. And hopefully, Dalton will agree to come on and chat about some of those things. There's so much to learn about data science in general. Okay, moving on. Let's go on to another question here. There's a lot of comments on the nursing informatics questions. I'm just liking and thumbs up everyone. From H, amazing video without the vague descriptions. Love the insight from leadership who came up through the ranks. Also the emphasis on the time frame before making the step into informatics. Really great panel interview. Don't have any other comments to say. It was fascinating to hear about those individuals' experiences. As you've noted, many of those in the video span nursing informatics analysts. They worked their way up from practicing nurse for many years, all the way up to leadership ranks in nursing informatics. It was very interesting to hear about their perspectives, and I learned a lot about what the typical progression looks like in nursing informatics, which, like pharmacy, is very different to get to that spot. Okay, next. Dalton says he agrees. We all agree with Dalton as well. It's a really cool and awesome opportunity that he has. Aruna is the next question. It is, hi sir, how to become a physician assistant after Pharmd? Is that worth how many years it will take to become PA after completion of PhD Pharmd in India? I'm probably not very well suited to answer that question. I know a couple of my colleagues did go to PA school after farm school. Very, very, very small percentage of them did. And I think there's actually a couple Pharmd PA programs that exist, but this is in the States. I'm not as familiar with programs in India. So I don't have a good response for you there, but good luck if you're pursuing that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Next question is from Jayesh Patel. See, I was supposed to do this for 30 minutes and it ended up going a little longer. 6 more minutes. We'll put 6 more minutes on the clock and then we'll end this live stream. Next question is from Jayesh Patel. The background music is distracting. I think this is actually a very common comment. A lot of my videos, I'm still trying to work on the balance between audio and video. I try to pick audio that is not as distracting. So thanks for the comments. I'll keep that in mind. Moving on. Oh, there's a lot of questions from Aruna. Moving on to another comment from Aruna again. Hi, sir. Is there any chance to do MD after Pharmd? Didn't you just ask about PA? Oh, yeah, you did. After Pharmd, I'm graduating Pharmd from India. How do I get into one? What is the duration? Please, sir. Okay. So basically, yeah, there's definitely opportunities. To my knowledge, there's no special path to get into MD after PharmD. It's just a normal application process. The only program I shared this last time that I know of that has kind of a joint program is Rutgers. They have a dual degree option for PharmD to MD pathway, but there, in my knowledge, it doesn't shorten, or maybe it does. Each of our due degree will begin towards a master's while completing Pharmd. Most programs would take to shorten. I recall when I read this that it doesn't shorten the program. So it's still like an entire 8-year program, and there's nothing that's super expedited about it. But this is what I would look into if I were you, if you're interested in that pathway. Otherwise, it's just applying to any program per usual. You have to meet the prereqs, you have to take the MCAT. You usually do not get the MCAT waived even if you have a doctorate in pharmacy. Just FYI, that's my experience. May have changed. Next question is also from Aruna. Hi, sir. What is the role of clinical pharmacist in general practice? Is there any scope for that? How do I get one? That's a hard question to ask. I'm assuming you're asking, I mean, just the role of pharmacists in clinical practice, I think. In the US, there is a lot of pharmacists that practice in hospitals, and the practice models are very different depending on where you go. I know that the typical transition has been, you might say the evolution is usually pharmacists that's typically involved in drug distribution in the basement of a hospital. They don't really do much with clinical practice. Then models came out where you have pharmacists on each floor, so you're decentralized pharmacy models. And then you try to have pharmacists in different service lines, so a clinical pharmacist in cardiology, in transplant and infectious disease. These kind of models differ in institution to institution. And I've worked in the East Coast, the South, the West, the Midwest, and the Northeast, and everyone is very different. What I can say though is that I have not read it. This is a little embarrassing, but there's always things that talk about what is the ideal pharmacy practice models. And one of the things that has been discussed recently is the Pharmacy Practice Initiative, which used to be, I believe, it's like an evolution of the Pharmacy Practice Model Initiative. So the PPMI is, do we have it on here? Pharmacy Practice Model Initiative. Let's just go with the new one. So pharmacy PAI pharmacy. Oops. PAI 2030 pharmacy. I believe this came out recently from, here it is, ASHP Practice Advancement Initiative. I would explore this a bit more. I have not read it myself, but usually these kinds of things is a joint collaboration with many leaders in the pharmacy profession on defining what the practice model should look like. I used to read a lot about this, but the more and more as I progress in my career, the more and more I'm moving beyond pharmacy. A lot of the things I do now probably wouldn't be categorized as pharmacy. So I would suggest taking a look at that resource, see if it's helpful. I'll probably read it at some point, and hopefully that kind of answers your question there. One more minute. Okay, one more minute. We are going to end this. Let's see. Hey, look at this. Someone's on a StarCraft video. Let me get to that question. So, uh, come back to this one. It's time to eat again. I feel like I know this person. Hold on. Who is It's time to eat again? Or maybe not. It's Ming and Sam. They don't sound familiar. Okay. This food looks really good, by the way. Ming and Sam, Feeding America. Okay, let me go back here. So it's time to eat again. It's a really cool name, by the way. I'm a pharmacist too, and I played quite a bit of StarCraft 2, mid diamond ranked. Ooh, 4-gate is pretty old now, but totally tried and true against mid-tier players. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge gamer, and I probably don't talk about it as much, but the people I identify with the most are gamers. And you know what? A lot of people in informatics are also gamers, which is why this field and this specialty in pharmacy is so awesome. We're all nerds. Um, I wonder how many people out there play some of the games I do. So for the record, I used to be a semi-professional Warcraft 3 player back in the day. I used to compete a lot in competitions, and at one point was ranked 25. I think back in 2003. Was not that good at StarCraft. I think I was also a diamond player, but nothing special because that was when it first came out. Tony says, I can say that when I was in Vienna, I spoke at length with a local pharmacist, and he said hospital practice didn't fully exist. Really? Hmm. It's very cool to know how pharmacy is practiced in non-US locations because it's just so different. So that's really interesting to hear. Um, So maybe that it was from the context of that person who was practicing in India. So pharmacy practice, yeah, keep that in mind. A lot of the things I say is very US centric, um, which may be vastly different than what's out there. So that's a really good point. So thanks for bringing that up, Tony. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna end the stream here. I gotta do some work for other things, but if you have questions, definitely leave some in the comments of this video. Uh, and for those who are still on the live stream, Tony is that person I've been talking about a lot of this stream. He has a podcast called Pharmacy, IT, and Me. Definitely go through this. He has a lot of content you can binge, 153 episodes. You should definitely check this out if you have not already. And Dalton, let me see if I can look him up on here. Dalton Fabian. Yeah, definitely check out Dalton's stuff. He is doing a lot of things. He is a cool person to follow on his journey. Definitely check him out. Sorry, Dalton, if you this, I'm showing your profile publicly on this live stream. Let me get out of that. But definitely check out some of his stuff. He has a lot of interesting stuff going on. All right, guys, I will be back next week, and thanks for tuning in. I will see you all next time. Take care.